Welcome to Neovation's webinar called Prompt Power Designing Better Learning Faster with AI. My name is Susan Harrell. It's my pleasure and privilege to be the producer of this webinar series where we have our members of our Neovite team, but also sometimes some guest presenters as well, sharing different topics and ideas. For those of you who do not know us, Neovation is a learning and development company. We have our Smarter You, AutoLearn, and JoySuite platforms to deliver knowledge to your teams. And we also have a wide range of services from custom learning through account management and things like that to help you deliver learning to your staff. We've been around for over 10 years. We have clients all around the world, and we are located in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, hence the smoke problem. Um, and I just want to mention, Jen will talk about Joy a little bit more later in her presentation, but we have just in the last week launched our newest platform, Joy Suite. It is an AI-infused knowledge management system with a whole bunch of features that are going to, we anticipate, evolutionize and revolutionize online training and knowledge management. We have our launch webinar that you can watch from last week if you weren't able to attend. But I do want to say that you will be getting a recording of the presentation itself. You will be getting a copy of the PDFs, slides, so you can use them as reference, and you'll be getting a copy of this fabulous prompt pack that Jen and Taylor have worked to put together to give you some a great reference kit of actionable things that you can do to improve your e-learning. I've worked with Jen and Taylor for a very, very long time. They are experts in their field. They are dedicated to helping you improve your custom learning offerings. So enough about me. I'm going to end the poll. Thank you so much for your contributions to that. There'll be one more poll midway through the session. There we go. That should be off, hopefully. And oh, please ask questions in the chat as we go along. Sorry, Jen, I just cut myself off there at the poll thing. We'll be trying to answer as many of them as we can during the session itself. We may save some up for the end if we have enough time, but the session is packed. And if not, we'll respond to you directly privately after the session to make sure all of your questions get answered. So I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to Jen Bell. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Jen, you can pick that up. Let's go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Susan. I'm really excited to be here to help share some information about AI. It seems like there's lots of folks on the webinar today that have already had experience using AI and such. So hopefully we can add just a little bit more to your toolkit on that today. So thank you just for being AI curious. My name's Jennifer Bell. I'm the leader of the custom learning team at Neovation. I'm joined by Taylor Mimko, who is our creative director and everything creative when it comes to the work that we do. And our collective goal today is to provide you with practical help that's non-technical and immediately useful. As Susan mentioned, please do ask questions, put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them as we go. If something resonates with you, use the reactions. It is really helpful for us to be able to see what is meaningful for you as we go through it. And yeah, don't worry about taking notes. We'll give you everything to make sure that we can cover everything at speed. So first off, why AI? It's here to stay. We can't ignore it, and we really do need to leverage it as a tool to support us within our work. It's an assistant. It can complete tasks based off of inputs that you give us. It can be limited only by your imagination, and AI can even make that limitless. A story on a project. We had a need to take a Word document that had a whole bunch of quiz questions in it and convert it into something that we could import into another system. And at first I thought, well, that's not really possible. I'm going to have to sit there and manually copy and paste this thing, or, try to engage somebody to do that for me. But we were able to create a prompt that pulled the content successfully out of a Word document format and create a comma separated file that we could then import all with the prompt. So just ask. And don't be afraid to fail fast on things. Try a bunch of stuff, and if you don't like it or it doesn't work, throw it out because you haven't spent that much time on it yet. You're not overly invested. Just try and try again. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between assistants and agents. Really want to have a clear definition, as clear as we can in the world of terminology and AI. But for the purpose of this webinar, we're focusing on assistance. The difference is that if you wanted to plan a vacation, an AI assistant could give you some results on flights and hotels and give you a list and do some research. And it might hallucinate a little bit along the way. But an AI agent, on the other hand, could research a destination based off your preferences, find the best flights, hotel deals, book them for you, send you an itinerary, and even make restaurant reservations, all with very minimal intervention from you because of the autonomy that it has in accessing different systems and information. So we're focusing on assistance, but if you're curious about AI, do some research about agentic AI and where that technology is going. And we will touch a little bit on ethics, but we're not going to go too deep into this one. We really believe that AI is a tool and it's not after your job. But in the world of learning and development, we're being transformed by the technology and we need to evolve and use it in order to stay relevant. We also need to recognize that AI is not perfect. The humans are needed. It's not a search engine. It's going to miss information. It's going to have errors and hallucinations and very confidently stand behind those as facts. AI generated content, just like those of an inexperienced intern who's doing a task for the first time, it has to be human validated, and you should expect that it's going to make errors. It's also using information that's available on the web. So if there's bias in that source material, that's going to propagate in the information and the content that it provides. We also need to be aware that AI does use an incredible amount of energy in the form of power and resources such as water for computer cooling systems. We also know that there's a lot of debate and discussion on copyright, as well as there's been several court rulings recently. I'm not a copyright expert, but it's definitely something that we need to keep in mind within the work that we do and make sure that we are being responsible with the content and the assets that we're creating. And of course, like any software, there's terms of service and license agreements that you need to make sure that you understand. Check with your organization's AI policies. Not seeing any questions come in, so let's dive into prompts. Now, I know a lot of you in the survey said that you were level 3, kind of moderately using AI within your organization and learning and development. But we do want to cover some basics just to make sure that everybody has a good understanding about what we're talking about through the webinar. We're not getting into deep technical, this is how you use this particular AI, but we do want to provide some basics to help you get started if you haven't, and to level up some of the things that you are currently using if you're already somewhat comfortable with AI. So first off, let's look at prompt basics. Um, Purpose-built software is programmed to have a single defined job to do. And you don't have to tell it what it is that you need it to do because of the programming that has it set up to fulfill a specific role, complete a task in a very specific way. The amazing thing about AI is they're completely open for any imaginable variety of tasks or jobs. But the challenge is they do need the programming, and that's what the prompt is. The prompt is how you give it the information without needing to know how to program, but you do need to know how to ask for what you want. So let's talk a little bit about prompt structures. There's a lot of options that are out there. Here's one that we use pretty commonly within our organization. It starts with the role, which could be act as an expert instructional designer with 20 years of experience. And then the task, which is create a 4-module course series on inclusive leadership. And maybe I give it some additional context or information in order to really fill out that task, more detail. I'm going to give it an audience that it should target, which could be new people managers in a healthcare organization. Maybe give it a learning profile or a learner profile so that it's got more context around where it should focus for that audience. And then format, which is how I want it to give me the answer for the prompt that I'm giving it. It could be a bulleted list or a table, It could be specifying that I want clear learning objectives, and maybe I'm giving it a resource for instructional design theory so that the objectives follow proper adult learning principles. And then tone. So use plain language, use a supportive tone, avoid colloquialisms or acronyms, things like that. And the more specific you are, the better results you're going to get. So let's have a look and compare a couple examples. Here we've got a pretty basic prompt. Write a 3-question quiz about safety risks caused by 1 millimeter leaks in trucks transporting gasoline and natural gas. Now, I'm not a subject matter expert, so I'm going to rely on AI to give me some quiz questions that I can use, and I'm going to human validate those with my subject matter expert. Now, you can see that this does not follow all of the things that I just covered for a prompt structure, but it's still asking a question, and it is somewhere that you could start, and you are going to get a result, just like I did here. So I have a pretty basic question. It's got some, asking a question pretty much based off of the prompt that I've given it, and it went ahead and did some research. I'm going to presume, for the sake of argument, that those answer options are good ones and that the correct one's correct and that the incorrect ones are incorrect. But again, you have to human validate what's generated by AI. But let's see what we can do if we give it more specific prompting. If we follow an actual prompt structure that gives it a specific role, task, audience, format, tone, and as a bonus, other elements that I want it to include, such as I want to create a quiz. Here's my source material, but also I need you to focus on this particular content for that quiz because it's tied to my learning objectives. And boom, we have our result. Now, with all of the samples that we're doing in the webinar today, we're doing this cooking show style. So we've already got them pre-baked and ready to pull out of the oven. So here's the prompt that you just saw on your screen. And you can see that in Gemini, which I've used, it generated all 3 questions for me. So I have my questions, I have my answer options, I've got specific feedback that it's provided for each of those. So that's great. This is all content that I can then pull out of the response in chat and put directly into my storyboard for the course, validate the information, finalize it, and then build it out. But I wanted to have a little bit of fun with it. So I said, build this quiz. And it said, you betcha, I can do that. I click the Canvas button, and now I have something that I can actually play with and get the experience of a learner that's actually taking the course, which is something that would take hours to be able to create previously, where I'd have to storyboard it and then build it and then test it. Now I can do it, and it took me only a couple minutes to try it out. So I've got my question, and this is instructionally a stronger question that's being asked. It's putting it in the form of a scenario. It's focused on the content that I wanted it to focus upon, and I'm getting the opportunity to go ahead and play. Now, clearly I'm not an expert on this content because I got the question wrong, but I can go through all 3 questions within my little tester quiz. I'm going to fail this course. Yeah, there we go, 0%. But I can try it out as a learner and really get that experience, all with being more specific in the prompt that I'm asking. But there's other structures that you can use. Here's one that uses persona, purpose, parentheses, and product. And another one is character, request, examples, type of output, and extras. They're all similar. You can see a lot of similarities between the different prompts and different structures. And this is not a comprehensive list of all the ones that are out there. What I encourage you to do, though, is to try the different ones out. Different AI tools are going to give you different results depending on what you're using, and different prompts are going to give you different results. And some of them are going to be better suited to certain processes or workflows as well, but you need to experiment. Here's some additional tips. First off, expect to invest. It takes time to create prompts. You have to ask the right way, but AI won't judge you, so you can go ahead and fail fast and try things again. It'll give you suggestions for follow-ups, so you can leverage those. And if things start to get a little off the rails with your conversation and you're just not getting it to give you what you're looking for, start a fresh chat thread and try again. Sometimes clearing the cobwebs is the best strategy. If you have a very complex task that you need it to do, have a prompt that'll break it down into smaller segments so that you do phase one, get approval on that with back and forth iteration, and then it doesn't move on to the next phase until you've said that you're ready to proceed. It allows you to be able to do that iteration in smaller, more manageable pieces from a mental processing standpoint and avoids the issue of doing this great big huge thing, getting a final result, and then trying to figure out how you can refine the prompt in order to make it better. Giving examples is another great tip. If you've got something that is reflective of the end result that you're looking for, give it to the AI as context. It'll be a lot closer to the end result if it knows what you're aiming for. The other thing is to watch for that AI flair, which is when you read something and you're like, that was totally written by an AI. The more specific you are with your prompts, the more context you give it, the less of that you're going to see in the result that you get. And of course, iterate, 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 which we'll talk about as well. And the best tip that I can give you is to get AI to write your prompt for you. That's a task. It's something within your workflow. So why not get AI's help? All right, let's jump right into that. A prompt to create a prompt. And you don't have to screenshot this or write it down or anything. It's going to be in the prompt pack that you get. But the idea behind this is that you are getting AI to act as the role of a prompt engineer. And by doing that, and I'm going to pull out my ready baked example here. I've put that prompt in and it said, excellent, a little bit of AI flair there. I'm ready to assist you. Following your instructions, we're going to have a conversation. So there's back and forth and back and forth, and it asked me a bunch of questions. I know you can't read this as I zip through it, but you can see that I'm giving, pretty short little answers on what I want it to do. Yep, you go ahead, everything's great. Please generate the thing. So here is my prompt. And then what I did is I created a new chat thread in Gemini. I used the prompt and then I came back to it and I said, you know what? Let's adjust it a little bit. We're going to iterate. So keep your prompt that you have, that you're creating open in a chat. You can even pin it in Gemini and keep coming back to it to continue to refine it. So I've asked for a refinement. It said, you betcha, I can help you out with that. Is this what you want? Yes, it is. Great. Here's your new prompt. I tried that one out and came back and said, let's make another adjustment. This doesn't fit in the Notebook LM context window. It's too long, even though I told it earlier that was the purpose that I had for this one. And it said, yeah, you're correct. I goofed on that one. Let's do this one again. I got my new prompt and I have another final adjustment. And this is the one that you're going to get in your prompt pack. So that iteration, that back and forth, and you can see that I've made AI do the heavy lifting on creating the prompt. Okay, perfect. So AI for instructional design. If you think about anything that you do within the workflow of learning and development projects and creation that you have, there are so many opportunities to leverage AI as your tool to make things faster, easier, to help you get over blank page syndrome. We're not going to go through all of these within our webinar today, but we're going to touch on quite a few of them before we get into some really cool tools that Taylor's going to show on design. So let's start off with some needs analysis and specifically a learner persona. Personas are a really valuable tool within needs analysis. They humanize the learner, they promote learner-centric learning, they aid collaboration and focus and decision making, but they are challenging. They can end up in persona traps like stereotyping, and they're effortful to create. They take work, perhaps hours, maybe even a lot longer, just to create one. But they are also a beautiful example of a repeatable task that once you have a prompt in place, you can use as your learning persona intern and create them in just minutes. So here I have a need to create some learning personas. And the specific use case is part of a needs analysis and planning for onboarding for technical equipment. It's a three-phase motor. I do a lot of testing in AI with three-phase motors, but we also have a lot of use cases with our clients where they need to create training that is specific and technical for different audiences. So this is a really valuable tool for our team to help support and make sure that everything that we're doing is learner-centric. And because of the prompt that I've given it, the results that I get include things like demographics, experience, goals, potential barriers, as well as recommended learning approaches. And it did that because my prompt was specific and I told it exactly what I expected. As a result, I had some iteration and back and forth with it. But the result of it is now I have a learning persona that I can use in my continued development. So now I have a learning persona. What's next? Well, I've got some source material. So I'm going to move on and create a course outline. Now here I've moved over to a different tool that I haven't shown yet. This one is called Notebook. ChatGPT and Gemini are really good creative tools. You really have to watch for hallucinations with them, but they have access to information and have been trained as large language models, LLMs, on a plethora of information, and they have access to a lot of content. So if you're looking for something creative or for it to do some research for you, those tools are really effective. But in this case, I want to create an outline that is only focused on the specific source material and the content that I give it. I don't want it going out into the internet and pulling in stuff that's going to be irrelevant. We had a project for a client where they needed to cite specific legal information for a specific state in the US. And if we'd used chat, it would have pulled information from multiple different states, which could have actually presented incorrect information to the learner. So instead, by using Notebook, we can focus it on only using the information that we give it. So in this case, I gave it the learning personas that we just created. I also gave it the specific source material that I wanted it to create the course outline on. So I've got my source of truth from a YouTube video and a presentation that a subject matter expert has provided, but I want to create an e-learning course and storyline on it. Now, the other thing that I've given it in Notebook is a whole bunch of resources to make it an expert. So these are things like learning theories, how to write stories, as well as things that are specific to creating things and what's capable within storyline. So with my prompt and the power of all of that specific information, with a prompt that also told it, by the way, I want my outline to be in a table format, I was able to get something that really got me to a good start in planning out this particular course. So this is just a sample of what it is that it provided, where module 2, I've got the lesson, I've got learning objectives that follow adult learning theory, I've got key topics that are going to be covered. It's also provided suggested activities and assessments. And I can use all of this in my planning or even go on to the next step with the next prompt and actually start storyboarding. Let's talk about storyboarding a little bit and having a little bit of fun. So one of the challenges in, sometimes in development projects is planning interactivities, creating immersive environments that can really draw the learner in and have them, it be more than just content delivery. But it can be really difficult as an instructional designer to either come up with ideas or to be able to meet with a designer like Taylor and say, this is what I have in mind using a bunch of words. Do you know what I mean? Instead, what I want to do is use AI to create something for me so that I can play around, try different things, and see what works, and also be able to share that with Taylor so that she can make it gorgeous, work correctly, and also match the brand and the look and feel, and actually have a better UI experience, user experience for it. So here I've got my prompt. I've told it to be an expert electrical engineer instructor with decades of experience, blah, 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 lots of information. And I've clicked the canvas button in Gemini Because I've done that, it's actually created a simulation and an interactivity that works. So I can actually play with all of the different buttons. I get some information that comes up. I can see the impact that all of this has on the speed, torque, current, and power. And it's a really cool way for me to be able to try something out. It's also a really nice way to be able to share information with the subject matter expert so that they can human validate and make sure that everything is accurate. Yeah, more space for customization prompting. It's coming. I have to believe it's coming. The speed at which these AI tools are evolving is absolutely fantastic. So if you have a wish today, I'm sure it's going to be a reality tomorrow. And I've actually got kind of a neat thing to show you coming up right now. So branch scenarios. In storyboarding, they're another thing that are really effortful to create, but they're also really complex. So this is a great example of taking one and breaking it down into smaller consumable pieces, starting first with the outline and getting a back and forth iteration and approval to the AI before I move on to actually adding in the actual detail and the realism and providing everything that I want. And then, of course, because I can, I want to try it out. So let's try it out. So Gemini, which I've used again, I have the entire pre-baked thing ready to pull out of the oven. Here is the prompt that I gave it. It thinks it's a fabulous idea. AI is very supportive. Although if you want to put in your prompt that it is slightly sarcastic with you to have a bit of fun, you could do that too. Um, so I've got my scenario, all of the text that I could go ahead and use right within my thing, but I also wanted to try it. So after all of this and all the iteration, and I was happy with my scenario and text, sorry about scrolling, I said, build it. And it did. Now here's where I had a little bit of a fight with the AI. This is great and everything, but to show you how this works, I really wanted these two answer options to be buttons and to obviously look like buttons. So I asked, make this look like buttons, and it said sure. And then it didn't. And then I asked again, and it said sure, and then it didn't. And here's where we are. So these are two answer choices, the correct choice, and then the one that someone that is, maybe new and less experienced would pick. And I can select that. And based off of all the back and forth and content, I've now got consequences, feedback, reflections, and coaching tips. And I can continue through the entire scenario and experience just like a learner would. And here's a really cool thing that is actually fairly new. So I want to create a scenario for some soft skills, and it is about dealing with conflict. I can generate with a fairly simple prompt a scenario. And I just think this is wild. I'm completely blown away. It's 8 seconds. I'm going to play you the full 8 seconds.
See how that's my responsibility. The client specifically requested your involvement. That's not what the brief said.
Like, what an amazing way to create some media that you can download as a video, put into your course, and set the scene for a specific scenario, and then have the learner answer a question about how they should handle it. Like, what a fantastic way to bring the client, the learner in and immerse them in it. So, of course, refinement is always there. That's a prompt everywhere within our tips is iterate, iterate, and refine. So back to the difference between a basic prompt and a well-crafted one. Let's say we want to schedule an SME interview and I don't want to do the work to write an email, so I've given it a pretty basic prompt and it generated an email. I'm gonna have to go in and edit a bunch of stuff and do some additional work and all of that. It's still faster than me writing it from scratch, but I think we can do better. So instead, whoops. I'm going to give it a better prompt, and I'm also going to give it the source material, which is the reason why I want to meet with the subject matter expert. And based off of that, I now have a prompt that is a lot more specific, that I have to do less work editing, and sets the SME up for exactly what it is that they need to do in order to prepare. Another repeatable task that gives me a way to create an AI intern that I can use again and again and again, just replacing the content every single time I've asked the question. and content review. So I don't know about you, but I'm not very good at editing my own work. And I often like to write in stream of consciousness, or I'll get source material for projects, as our team does, from subject matter experts that isn't necessarily well written or constructed. And I want some help and second set of eyes from my AI intern in improving it. So I've given it a prompt and asked it to identify all of these specific things. Now, I didn't highlight all of the spelling and grammatical and punctuation errors because, well, the whole thing would have been red. But I did highlight several things that it found and identified within it. I then asked it, fix this for me. And so it did. The initial draft that it gave me was too long. So I asked it to make it shorter. I asked it to add some additional text to the SMART goals to help connect them to the learner within their base of knowledge. But I noticed that it still has this stat that's been cited, 23% more profitable. That feels like I need a fact check on it. So I asked AI, give me your sources. Now I can get those sources. I can go and dive into them. I can do my human editing on it and make sure that this is all accurate and that I'm not putting something into my training or my material that is just plain wrong. So many things that you can do with an instructional design, and every project requires project management. So just think about the workflows that you have and the power that you could unleash if you just create some AI intern, some repeatable, reusable prompts that you can pull out again and again to save you hours in your day, especially on the repeatable tasks that will allow you to spend your effort and your time in areas that are going to have so much more value. Get the most out of your human value and find ways within your day that you can leverage it, whether it's instructional design, emails, project plans, identifying project risks, or as I'm now going to pass it over to Taylor, let's dive into some of the amazing things that you can do using AI for digital design. Taylor, over to you.
Thank you, Jen. So today I'm going to talk a bit about AI's prevalence in the digital design world. AI has completely reshaped our design process by giving us faster, smarter ways to visualize ideas, customize content, and adapt to client needs in real time. Common tasks like design ideation, mood boarding, image enhancements and creation, interactivity planning can now be accomplished faster, smarter, and with more precision, which is bringing us closer to those high impact learner-centered results right from the very start. So let's start with one of the most immediate and practical ways AI is transforming digital design with image enhancement and modification. In e-learning, visuals set context, build credibility, and help learners relate to content. But we often face some limitations like poor quality client photos, missing diversity, or restrictions on showing real staff. With tools like Photoshop's generative fill, it lets us edit photos with AI-generated content that blends seamlessly into the original. This includes things like removing or swapping out unwanted elements like cluttered backgrounds or signage or logos, altering environments to better align with the course setting or learning scenario, and replacing faces or full individuals while preserving the photo's composition, allowing us to respect privacy without losing authenticity. We can retain the authenticity of the workplace, like the location, the uniforms, the body language, all while protecting privacy. AI allows us to generate new anonymous faces that respect cultural or demographic expectations and fit naturally into the photo's composition. So to show you an example of this, This is a photo that we received from a client. They have their staff member in the warehouse. They're wearing the uniform that they'd be wearing in a real life work scenario. There's a few other employees in the background, but they don't want to feature this employee in their module. They want to be able to protect their identity. So we have a couple different options here. We can make a selection around just the face, and we can use the generative fill tool to replace the face with an AI generated character. So as Jen mentioned before, I have a couple pre-baked examples for you using the generative fill tool, where you can see I've used AI to replace this character's face. Now, some of these options are not super believable, but there are some really good options in here that I can very quickly transform this photo to be able to use in my e-learning module very quickly. The lighting is good. It has analyzed the surroundings of the subject in the photo to match the lighting. The blend on the face looks natural. Everything looks pretty believable. Now, I might want to go a step further and make a bigger selection of the entire head. Maybe I want to replace the hard hat completely and have it be blue instead of white. So with that, I've done another selection of the entire head, and I've added in a simple prompt of woman's face wearing a blue hard hat. And these are my results. So you can see the surroundings of my selection have been automatically edited by AI to make sure that the AI generated content is filling in seamlessly with the original photo. And it has given me a bunch of options to choose from, and I can continuously generate this until I get an option that I think works best with the photo. So if you haven't already tried this with your client supplied photos, I definitely recommend you do so. It is such a time saver in comparison to searching through Adobe stock or iStock, trying to find that perfect stock photo that's going to fit within your e-learning module.
Sorry to interrupt you, Taylor, but we have a question about what tool you were just using.
So this is Photoshop. And
Thank
this
you.
is the generative fill tool. So you can make a selection and you should see it pop up in terms of utilizing Adobe Firefly within Photoshop. Yeah, this is Adobe Photoshop. Great question. So with this approach, our clients still get to showcase their environment and branding, but without putting their real employees in the spotlight. And from a production standpoint, it saves a ton of time. We don't have to reschedule photo shoots or bring in actors or spend time searching for that perfect stock photo, which can take a very long time depending on the content. It's also a lot more budget friendly. We don't need to purchase new stock photos or book photographers, and it gives us the flexibility to make visuals more inclusive. We can represent a wider range of people and situations, even when we're working with existing client photos or even with stock photography. Now, beyond enhancing existing images, one of the most exciting developments for digital designers is the ability to generate entirely new visuals using AI. Until now, we were pretty limited to using traditional stock imagery if the client wasn't able to provide an image library. And this has its downfalls. They're often overused, they're often too generic, they often lack diversity, and they rarely match specific learning contexts or brand tone. AI tools give us unprecedented control to create visuals that are highly specific and aligned with the course vision. So let's get into a couple tools. The first one being Gemini, as we talked about previously. Now, when it comes to creating effective visuals with using AI tools like Gemini, the most important thing is how you write your prompts. A strong prompt gives the model everything it needs to create an image that supports your learning content. You want to be specific about who is in the image, what they're doing, where they are, and even how it should feel. So, for example, here's a prompt that I'm going to use to demo today. You can see exactly how much level of detail I included. Age, occupation, clothing, setting, objects, and background style. I can even add in cues for style like flat illustration or realistic lighting with branded colors. All of this helps to guide the AI to create visuals that are more aligned with my brand and the tone of my course. Now, this is the result that I got. It's important to start broad and then refine. The first image might get you about 70% of the way there. From there, you can iterate. change the lighting, adjust the pose, tweak the expression, update the clothing. You are co-creating this visual with the AI model. Now, even with great prompts, AI is going to sometimes add in some unexpected details or what we call hallucinations. So you want to look closely at the image for things like extra fingers or awkward hand positions, strange or inconsistent branding, clothing that doesn't quite match the prompt, or real-world expectations. And this is where the human touch still matters, reviewing and refining the output to make sure it supports clarity and accuracy and learner trust. So to show you an example of this right within Gemini, you can see my original prompt here, and this was the first image that I was able to generate. Now, at first glance, this image looks very natural. The lighting is really good. It listened to my instructions about the uniform and the background being a warehouse, having it be blurred. There's a couple things though that I'm not quite a fan of. The color of the hard hat being one. I don't like the lime green hard hat. And the staff members in the background are wearing a different uniform than the subject. I really want them to all be wearing the same uniform. So I gave Gemini a bit of feedback and I asked it if the background characters can be wearing the same uniform. And of course, I got a little bit of flack from Gemini telling me it cannot yet edit images in my region. So with that, I copied my original prompt and I made a few tweaks to the language to include some of those details that I was looking for in the new image. And this was the result. So much closer to the result I was looking for. They now have a white hard hat. The characters in the background are all wearing the same uniform. It still listened to some of those key details that I have in terms of the lighting and the blurred background. I really like this photo. Zooming in, I can see that we don't have any extra fingers or extra limbs, no awkward hand positions. It looks really natural. It looks like actual humans, but it was all generated in just a couple of minutes using AI, which to find this exact specific photo could have taken me many, many minutes looking through stock photo websites. Obviously, the setting's a little bit more generic, but you can imagine if I was trying to produce something more specific, I probably would not have gotten these results quickly on any stock photo site. Now, here's a little pro tip. Treat your prompts like a mini design brief. The clearer your vision, the more description that you provide the AI, the better the outcome that you're going to get. Let's look at another tool, ChatGPT. Everyone's heard of ChatGPT. It is a great tool for visual creation, especially with its image generation features. What makes ChatGPT different is the conversational flow. You're not just giving it a prompt and hoping for the best. You're having a back and forth that lets you refine your creative vision in real time. Now, with any AI tool, the quality of your output depends on how clearly you describe what you want. So for this demo, I'm going to use the same prompt that I used previously. Now you can see exactly how much level of detail I've provided, and that's intentional. I'm telling the AI exactly who the subject is, what she's doing, where she is, what kind of equipment is around her, and even how I want the background to feel visually. And this was my result that I got from ChatGPT. Now, the real strength with using ChatGPT is that I can build on that prompt conversationally. So after seeing the first image, I might say, let's make the lighting a little warmer, add more staff in the background, make her expression more confident. I'm not rewriting the entire prompt. I'm just refining pieces, just like I would with a real designer during a revision cycle. Now, of course, no AI-generated image is perfect out of the gate. You have to test these prompts for things like extra fingers, or awkward hand placements, branding errors, like text on clothing is a big one with ChatGPT that really doesn't say anything or isn't even really in English. Facial oddities or weird postures. I find with ChatGPT, sometimes the images can have a bit of a comic book style to them with really thick outlines on some of the characters. So these are small but important details to catch, especially in e-learning where credibility and clarity matter. So to show you an example of this right within ChatGPT, you can see my initial prompt and my initial image that I generated. And I gave it a little bit of feedback. I said, adjust the lighting for some more brightness, make it more vibrant, add some more staff members in the background. I didn't have to include my whole entire original prompt. I just had to give it some tweaks. And this was my second image that I was able to generate. Now it took my feedback very literally, and it added a little bit too much brightness, and it's a little bit too vibrant, but I do have more characters in the background now, so I am closer to that end result that I'm looking for. But with ChatGPT, if you have the pro version, you can actually upload source images for it to use as reference, as long as you indicate that within your prompt. So I uploaded the image I was able to generate earlier from Gemini because I really liked the lighting style that I got with that image. And I asked it to use it as a reference for color tone lighting and style. And this was the result. So it's still not 100% what I'm looking for in terms of color. It's still a little bit too yellow, but it's a lot closer to the image quality that I'm looking for in my e-learning module, which is really going to help me make sure my media is consistent across my entire course. Now, I could do some continuous back and forth with chat to keep refining this image, but it's definitely a lot closer to what I'm looking for than it was originally. So some great results we've been getting out of ChatGPT as well. With ChatGPT, we're not just generating one and done visuals, we're shaping them through the conversation. It's like AI is providing us with the canvas, but I'm guiding the brush. And last but not least, my favorite tool for generating media is Midjourney. Midjourney allows us to create imagery that is visually rich, stylized, and outside of the box, especially helpful for e-learning modules that lean into more storytelling scenarios or gamified experiences where the media is going to be really key to telling that story. So as always, you have to start with a clear description of what you want. And that means being specific about subject, environment, action, and mood. Midjourney responds really well to descriptive, vivid language. It also lets you shape the visual feel of your imagery by using style references. You can type in a style like corporate headshot lighting or flat editorial illustration. But one of the most powerful features is that you can upload your own image as a style reference. So if you already got a branded photo or a course visual that you really like, you can paste it in or include an image URL into the prompt. Midjourney will try to mimic its lighting, color grading, and composition, which is a huge help when you're working with brand guidelines or aiming for consistency across modules. Now, it's always important to check your images for things like AI quirks, like hands, fingers, faces, or inconsistent lighting. It just comes with the territory of using AI to generate media. Using Midjourney's upscale feature, you can enhance image clarity, especially if you plan to zoom in or use it at full screen, which is really helpful. Midjourney gives us incredible creative control, but it still takes human direction to get course-ready results. Treat it like a visual brainstorming partner that works best when you speak its language. So I'm going to show you a bit of a peek of that within Midjourney. So these are a couple prompts that I generated similar to what we were using earlier, but I added a couple extra details because Midjourney really likes more descriptive, vivid language when it comes to image generation prompts. I added a bit extra about exactly how I want this image to look in terms of it being a crisp, clean photograph. And I went a step further and said, I want it shot with a very specific camera to really take home the fact that I want it to be a professional looking photo. And these were the results that I got right from the start. Pretty good. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the green hard hat, as I mentioned before, so I refined my prompt a little bit extra, and I even, again, added in that image I got from Gemini for it to use as a style reference, which it did a really great job of when it comes to the lighting and the color. And these were some of the options that I was given. Now, I can take any of these options and I can either upscale them or I can create variations with one click of a button for it to give me even more options to choose from. It all happens really quickly within the tool, and I can already create a collection of images to choose from or feature throughout the course of my e-learning module. Now, another amazing tool that came out recently with Midjourney is the ability to take any of my AI-generated images and create a short 5-second video based on the image being the first frame of the video. Now, this could have taken hours to do previously to having access to this tool. And I can do it now with a click of a button and turn a static stock photo into a 5-second moving image that's going to totally changed the pace of my course. Now, this one here in particular, I didn't add in a prompt. I used the auto extend feature, which basically means Midjourney is going to take my image and decide how the video should look and how the character should move. I wasn't a fan of the fact that she was looking right at the camera or even what she was doing, so I went a step further and added in a prompt. Subject looks down, inputs data on handheld tablet, camera slowly zooms in. And this was the result. It gave me 4 options to choose from. And this can really tell the story now for my slide in terms of having the model actually do something rather than just sitting there in a photo staring at you. So if you haven't already gone in and tried this, it has been a huge game changer for us. You can continuously extend it, I think up to 30 seconds. It's going to impact the size of it, obviously, but it has been wild what AI has been able to do over the last few months. So let's talk a bit about how we can use AI, especially ChatGPT, to support JavaScript development in Storyline 360, particularly for building triggers and custom interactions that go beyond what the built-in tool offers. I'll start by using ChatGPT to write the first draft of a JavaScript snippet for things like a custom timer or a score calculator or a triggered animation based on a variable. And it's going to give me step-by-step instructions along with usable code that I can drop right into a trigger. Now, what makes this really helpful is that I don't have to speak in full developer terms. I am not a developer. I will never claim to be a developer. I can describe what I want to happen, and ChatGPT will return a clean working solution using the right storyline variable structure. So if I want a specific action to happen when a learner opens a layer, for example, I just say so, and it gives me a solution that uses storyline variables and states correctly. But it's not just building from scratch. ChatGPT can also be super helpful when something's not working. So if I have a script from a previous course or a teammate that's broken or acting weird, I can paste it in and say, "This isn't working. Can you tell me why?" It'll often explain the logic in plain language or point out exactly where the error is, and that has saved us hours of trial and error troubleshooting. It doesn't replace developer expertise by any means, but it definitely gives us room to try more creative, custom, and ambitious ideas. It helps bridge the gap between what we dream up as designers and what we can realistically build in Storyline, and that makes the tool feel a lot more powerful. So if you haven't already tried using AI in your course builds yet, I really encourage you to test it out, even for something simple like a custom interaction or quick troubleshooting check. It might just be the boost you need to take your next project to the next level. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Jen for some tips and troubleshooting.
Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate it. So we've covered a lot today. I hope that you've got something useful out of everything that we've shared. We're going to try to answer some questions, but first off, let's just talk about a couple final tips. Experiment with phrasing, use keywords, try different things out, try different prompt structures, try different AI tools and see what results that you get. If you're getting some fuzzy results, give it some feedback, provide it with some additional context, as well as some clarity for what it is that you're looking for. If you are getting a big request and you have a big job that you want it to do, really break it down into smaller consumable pieces and ask for detail. And a final tip is use something called Markdown format. So if you're drafting anything within Word or Google Documents or an email, you're using a WYSIWYG editor, which is the what you see is what you get. You highlight a word and you bold it or make it a heading or create a table. That's all the WYSIWYG formatting that you have access to. If you provide the prompt that you've drafted in Markdown format, it's like a simple coding that for a heading, it'll put 2 pound signs on either side of it, or put stars in it, or create the table in kind of a simple coding format. It's really useful, especially when you're specifying to the AI what format you want the response to be in. Because if you just copy and paste from that WYSIWYG edited, drafted prompt into the AI, all that formatting that you carefully created is going to get stripped out. But if you use Markdown, then the table is going to be better understood by the AI, and you're more likely to get an actual table as your result in the prompt, or an email that has a bulleted list with the first word bolded and then a colon and then the text after it. So it's kind of a power tool when it comes to AI. Now, our team is here to assist. You've got a lot of work to do. You know what you want to build, but sometimes you don't have the resources to make it possible. We have a team of very skilled and experienced instructional designers that are wordsmiths, understand adult learning theory, how to create stories, work with subject matter experts. We have project managers that understand how to identify and mitigate risks before they present themselves within projects, scoping, timelines, and communication. E-learning designers such as Taylor, our creative director, Abril, who you might have seen in the chat, and an entire team that really understand graphic design, as well as the technical tools needed to bring storyboards to life. And of course, quality assurance experts that make sure everything works beautifully. Here's just a small sample of some of the projects that our team could assist you with. You bring the subject matter expertise, and whether you need just a little bit of help or full assistance on a project, we're here to help. And you can also go to our website and book a free consulting where we'll have a call with you and we'll tailor a conversation to help you with your next project. Now, we all know that AI is going to have a major impact on our humanity and our world and learning and development. And there's a whole bunch of tools that are out there. But now there's a tool that actually unifies them and brings them all together. At Neovation, we've always been focused on people being powered by knowledge. And Joy Suite's mission is to leverage AI to empower you to work smarter and learn faster. And how Joy does that is on the work work smarter piece is under the Knowledge Center, which allows you to bring all of your knowledge files into one place, either uploading them or linking them, so that you have a central repository where anybody can access the information that they're looking for. They can leverage that with something called a knowledge assistant that accesses the information to provide your team with answers to questions, but enables their workflows. So you have a RFP that you need to respond to, use the knowledge assistant with your knowledge center and automatically generate a SWOT analysis or even a response. On the learn faster side of things, there's the knowledge coach, which allows you to have an AI tutor that will allow you to take any file, a PDF, a video, an infographic, a document, and have a conversational learning, and so that you know that your people completely understand it, which is very much a game changer within the industry. But of course, that learning is going to get lost unless people have the opportunity to practice. And that's where the scenario coach comes in. It gives them an opportunity to have a personalized learning experience that emulates a one-on-one training from a mentor to a mentee doing realistic scenarios with an AI. So thank you for being AI curious. We're going to try to answer a couple questions in our last couple minutes here, but we hope that you've been a little bit inspired and absolutely empowered to get AI working for you. So I'm just having a look at a couple questions that we missed earlier. One of them was, how do you ensure prompts encourage critical thinking rather than passive recall when using tools like Gemini? One of the key things with generating anything that's going to be impactful and powerful within your training is giving it really specific direction. So if you are providing the LLM with things like these are the specific learning objectives, here's my source material, it can create a better opportunity for you to get closer to critical thinking rather than shallow understanding or awareness on something. Are there ways to engineer your prompts to challenge biases in learners? Challenging biases is really important, we believe. So it really will depend on the source material that you have, as well as the specific directions that you are providing to the AI. So if you want to create, for example, training on diversity and inclusion and helping to overcome biases and have people think about things in different ways, then you're probably going to providing it with a lot of source material that include things like confirmation bias and everything as a resource so that you are leveraging that in the source material that you're using in whatever it is that you're generating. Taylor, there was a couple questions that came in for you as well. One of them is from Dimitri. Can you take a photo and change them into a drawing or a cartoon style?
Yes, absolutely. And I did see Abril in the chat helpfully answering a lot of those design questions. So shout out to Abril. Thank you so much. But Abril is absolutely right. You can include details about this right within your prompt in terms of having those specific style references, or even creating a prompt template where you're referencing a specific image and have it use that as the style that you want any new image generations to follow. So I can include a little bit about that in the prompt pack that we're going to send out after this as well, just to make sure that that's detailed in there.
That's excellent. We had one other question about maintaining the look of a character, such as in a children's picture book.
Yes, and that's exactly the same type of thing, including information about that in your prompt. And when you're using tools like Sora or Midjourney, you're able to upload a reference image and you're able to indicate in your prompt how closely you want to follow or specific portions of that image that you'd want your new images to follow. So things like the style or even the look of the character, you're able to reference that right within your prompt and tell the AI any new image generations should follow these specific style references from within the photo. Or when it comes to style, you can just be very, very descriptive for the style of images you're looking to generate moving forward. And it's really helpful to create sort of a prompt template that any new images would follow. So you don't have to retype it every single time and have it potentially take it in different ways. You can be very specific every time you're generating those new images with that exact style reference.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Taylor, and thank you, Jen. I promised you all an action-packed, info-packed session, and boy, we're right up to 1:01. We're running over slightly. You can watch our previous webinars. We'll be sending out the recording for this webinar. I'd love suggestions for the kinds of webinars you would like to see so we can program webinars that you will actually come and attend. We love seeing you on these webinar sessions. Our next one coming up is September 24th. It's on project management in learning and development, which will be some basic project management skills. And I know that Jesse's going to talk about some tools that she's using and probably including some AI as well. Got some other sessions coming up, details to be confirmed. I'm going to see if I can pressure Taylor and Jen to maybe do the August session and carry forward from this one, since there were so many great questions and so much information to digest. You can reach me at hello@neovation.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. You'll get the recording in the next day or so. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope to see you in the next session.